Hi, today we'll be talking about transposing or restructuring the data. So, we'll be talking about proc transpose, and what exactly we are trying to do here is we are trying to turn the variables into observations or turn the observations into variable. What do I mean by that? Now, let's have a look at this example. In this example, we have two variables, student and marks, and this is the data lines for those variables. So we have a student A and the marks for the student A. So we have three marks for the student A and all three marks are entered this way. While for student B again we have three marks and they are entered vertically. So we don't want it that way. We want it something like this. We have a student A and we want the data to be arranged in columns for, so probably we want marks 1, marks 2 and marks 3. For student B again we want the data to be arranged something like this. How do we do that? Now doing this is very simple with proc transpose, so let's have a look at it. So let's first see how our data looks. So this is how our data looks. We have the student and we have the marks, and let's just arrange this data. So we have proc transpose, and the data that we are using, the data set that we are using is data set simple, and we'll be getting the result in another data set and we call it simpler. Okay, and that's it for now. And we want to arrange the data set by student, so we use a by statement, we call it by, and then we say student. And the variable that we have to distribute in the columns is our marks, so we call it var marks. And then we run it, and then we give a proc print to see our results. Okay, so here we go. Exactly as we wanted. So we wanted to have a student A and the marks of the student A arranged here, and we wanted to have a student B and the marks of the student B arranged here, and we got that. But what did we get here? This is an extra variable, an automatic variable that was created, and it just tells us the variable that we used to distribute or to transpose. So this is the variable that we transposed, marks, right? And as column heading, we got the default column headings, that is call 1, call 2 and call 3. Now we don't want this variable to show up. We know that these are marks and we want these column heading, call 1, call 2, call 3, to be called as mark 1, marks 2, mark 3. So let's do one thing at a time. So let's start with changing the name for this column heading. So we'll do that by adding one simple option here. We call it prefix equal, we say marks, right? So let's see what do we get with this. Yes, exactly as we wanted. So what the option prefix does is it replaces this call with whatever prefix we have given, and 1, 2 and 3 remains the same. Next we want to drop this variable, so we want to drop this variable out of the new data set that we got. So how do we do that? Since this variable is present in the new data set, so we just put an option in front of the new data set, simpler. We say drop is equal to underscore name. So that was our new variable. So hopefully that should do the job. Yes, and here we get a transposed data set. Okay, now okay, let's go to the next example, and in this next example we'll try to understand all these options a little bit more. So in this example I have data marks underscore year, and I have three variables, to ID, year and marks. Now what I have again is student ID as 111, and we have the marks for every year. We have marks for 1996, 1997, 1998. Right? Similarly, for student 2, we have marks for 96 and 97. We don't have marks of 1998 for student 2. And student 3, we have 96, 97, 98. Student 4 is, it's not there. We have student 5, wherein we have only 1 marks. So again, we have to arrange the data something like this. We want to have student 1, and then we have to have 1996, 1997, and 1998, and then we have to have student 1 over here and arrange marks like this: 635, 64, 76. Now we wanted to put these here as the criteria to decide the column name and column number. For example, if we had 4 years, we would have liked a fourth column here as 1999. We don't have that, so we want it to be 3 columns. So we want that to be decided automatically. Similarly, we want the student ID to decide the observation. So we have it here as second student as here, and then the student ID 3, and then we want it to be 5. We don't have 4, right? So that's how we want the arrangement. So let's see how we can do it. Again, we go ahead with proc transpose, and here this time we have used the data marks underscore year, and our output data is arranged underscore marks. Now we have used student ID similar to what we have used in previous example, but this time we have used one more option, that is ID is year. What this ID does is it gives the column heading. You can say it decides the heading for the column, right? Then we have variable marks which we are distributing, okay, or transposing. So the variable are the ones which we are transposing. And now let's run the program. I'm running the whole preliminary data and the second data so that we can compare. Here we go. So this was our original data set wherein we have student ID, and now let's see how it is arranged. We have exactly the way we want it. So under 1996, next what we do is we'll drop that extra variable which we don't want. That variable was in our out data set, so this time you should be knowing it. What I'll do is drop equal underscore name. Okay, now what this does is it will drop that data set. Okay, so here we got it. Now there's one more thing we can do. Instead of dropping it, probably we can give it another heading, and probably it may help us identify which variable we use to. Yeah, so this is a variable transposed. Okay, let's see what it does. So we have given an option, name is equal to variable underscore transposed, and so that heading of underscore name underscore is now, it gives us variable transposed, and here we get the list of the variables that has been transposed. So every time, since we have used only one variable for transposing, we get marks in each column. In future examples, we'll see when we use two variables for transposing. So hopefully that makes it clear till now. And now this time I'll bring about one more point when we are using a by statement. So till now we had been using a by statement over here. Now let's change a data set a little bit. So let's just put this value, cut it out from here, and put this value at the end. Now what's changed in this data set is the arrangement. So let's do that with one more value. Okay. Okay, now let's run this. So we have a data set which is not sorted because we call it a new observation arranged marks 1, and we'll print that arranged marks 1. I'll do that once again. So this is here, I run it and I don't get an output, I get an error. What error do I get? I get an error that says dataset work dot marks underscore is not sorted in ascending sequence. So what does that mean? That simply means that for using a by statement, our original parent data set should be sorted with that by variable. So that's one preliminary requirement to use by statement. Since our data was already sorted, when we used this by statement before in our previous examples, we did not have any problem. But now when our data is not sorted, we get a problem. So to fix that, it's simple. We just run a proc sort procedure. Proc sort data equal to marks year. So we run our proc sort on that by to id and here. And once we run a proc sort and then we do this proc transpose, our problem is solved. So what did we see till now? To summarize, we saw that we can use a proc transpose for restructuring our data wherein we can convert variable into observations. So what we used was a command proc transpose. We used it by variable that determines, the variable that will make the id, and then we use a variable that we want to transpose. And then in next we also learned about an id variable. So we learned about by, then we used id year here, which identifies a column, and variable marks, which was a variable that we distribute. We also learned about how we can give an option of drop equal to underscore name, or how we could change the name of the variable, this automatic variable here. Okay, so yeah, so I'll stop here and I'll continue with more of the transpose in the next part. Thank you.